Welcome to the Fantasy Aceball podcast. This is your host, Tim Kanak. You can find me on X at Fantasy Aceball. And you can also watch, if you want to watch and look at faces and look at stats and stuff like that, that'll pop up sporadically throughout the podcast. You can also watch on YouTube at the Tim Kanak. And if you're watching, you can already see that we have the second of the mystical three Chris's that are going to be on back to back. Three Chris guests in a row, like the three wise men, Chris Welsh. And now we've got Chris Blessing here for the second one. And you can find Chris Blessing on X at C_Blessing. And you can also find his fantastic podcast, The Eyes Have It, anywhere where podcasts are. And you can also find him at Baseball HQ. So Chris is kind of all over the place. And he is one of the more experienced guys. He's like, you have to have been doing this for longer than most, if not the longest, who is like still doing prospect stuff, I would say, Chris. Like, how many years experience would you say you've been doing this for?
I don't
want to age you, but
yeah, I'm okay with you aging me. There's guys that started before me that are older than me, so whatever. I started in 2009. First article was about John Singleton, of all players. Currently playing first base and designated hitter for Buffalo, I think, or the Syracuse Mets. That's where he's at. He's in Syracuse. So like I got somebody that made like $30 million as my first article. I mean, that was better than my second article, which I think was on Christian Betancourt or Josh Tolley. I forget who it was, but one of those two guys. At least I picked major leaguers, like future major leaguers from Aceball, as opposed to not future major leaguers.
And he got paid, like you said. So he got paid. I mean, he's one of those guys, like, it was like the faster route of the Jason Hayward career because he's still around. So it's like Jason Hayward was just like right when he came on the scene, just blew up, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is the next guy." And then like I think like Singleton was really good for what, his first couple months or something, and then they paid him, and then he just
he also was toking up and got suspended for something that like they would not be suspending him today on. So like that's also a part of this too. Part of this whole narrative is kind of like Ricky Williams in football. Like, just nobody knew Jonathan Singleton. He was us obscure folks did, but most of the mainstream didn't know who Jonathan Singleton is, other than the fact that he was a colossal contract failure with the Astros.
It's like, is that an Astros prospects tradition? Didn't Forrest Whitley get dinged for the same thing?
I mean, there was a lot more with Whitley. I wish I could discuss that publicly, but yeah, like Whitley has. I mean, there's a lot of different things that were involved too, and who knows? Singleton might have had some other things as well that maybe I didn't know, or maybe wasn't public knowledge. But you never heard drugs of abuse from any of the suspensions for Singleton. It was pot. I mean, he was a pothead.
Well, he got paid, so he doesn't have to worry about anything. I guess you could just chill after that. So let's get into the prospects. We're going to start off at number 50 in my rankings, and that is Mr. Michael Arroyo, middle infielder for the Mariners. Michael Arroyo kind of got off to a slow start this year after like a really torrid pace last year, and I kind of thought, he might be a double-A by now, Chris. I don't know. I expected him to move a little bit faster. So I actually brought him down in my rankings. I had him at 41 last time, brought him down to 50. I know like Dylan White was saying like his Robo Scout or whatever had Michael Arroyo as like the number one guy or something coming into the year. And I was just like, oh yeah, like for points, especially for like points leagues, he was like tracking to be like, oh, this guy's going to be points darling. He's still like, if you're in an odd new league and you look him up and if you're in a points odd new league, he's still like scoring a ton of points. Just because he has a good plate approach, right? Like he takes walk. He's got a pretty good plate approach. And I think he's just kind of like the guy who can do it all, but nothing's like elite. It's just like, he's pretty good at everything. Nothing's elite. So like, that's the type of guy who's like probably never going to break into like the top 25 prospects. But I feel like he should probably be hanging around this tier as long as he continues what he's doing until he gets promoted to the Mariners. So, I mean, like you can't sneeze at a 136 WRC plus or whatever as a 20-year-old at high A. So, like, I just think he's like pretty good at everything. Will he be like a Jorge Polanco, or will he be able to like kind of like get better than that? Is kind of like where I leave off on, where he's at. What do you think about Arroyo?
So like you hit it on the head. Solid all around talent, tool set, all of that stuff. My issue has always been, and why I've never elevated him above a top 50 prospect, um, has been where I don't see that standout tool, where I don't see that carry in fantasy that we all kind of need. Again, a very talented player. I mean, you said it yourself just now. I'm looking. I should have had this prepared. I didn't have my list up at all, so I have to go find that list at this point. But like, he's been so like, for instance, I'm not going to give it away, but you've got a Mariners prospect coming up, Johnny Farmelo, who I've always had ahead of Arroyo. Like I've always last year, I guess last year plus, I've had that prospect ahead of him because I see a carry from him at least. That's going to carry him to a lot of playing time and that sort of thing. One of my issues when there's a solid guy, if you have a bunch of above average to above average, like so many guys have average tools. And think of that for a second. Like you can go to any site, whether it's Baseball HQ, whether it's the work that you're doing, whether it's one of our friends out there, and they're going to say something's average. And what does average actually mean when you're evaluating? Uh, it means that kind of like I hate to use the word average, but like I find this guy like the most average, above average type prospect that we're going to be talking about right now. Again, when you don't have a carry for me in fantasy, I can't really believe in you. I think he's a solid. I think he's a regular. I think he's an MLB regular. But what's going to carry him to the top 12 or the top 15 of his position or the top, and again, we're talking about a middle infielder. So top 10, top 15. The best thing for him to have, the best thing for fantasy managers to happen to Arroyo is he moves over to second base. Right now, there's a good chance he hits. I mean, yeah, you mentioned Jorge Polanco in your little comp for him. You hit 20 home runs, you're going to be somebody at second base. You're going to be a rosterable guy in most formats. 12, 15 at second base. 12 if you have 12 teamers, 15 teamers, and that guy's going to likely be there when he's in full development. Um, 20 home runs. That's not anything spectacular, don't get me wrong. But in the second base, that's a lower tier second baseman that you're rostering and starting. Like that's where I am with Arroyo. Like I really feel like he's outside that top 50. I don't have him elevated really any higher. I could see him, if there's been some improvement the second half, I could see moving him up a little. Maybe he gets into my top 50, but at this point, he's not there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think that like there is, and it all depends on what type of leagues you're playing, right? So like there is value there, but if you're in a deeper league, like that's pretty good value, especially if he probably will be a second baseman, right? I mean, like they've
Right.
got Cole Emerson and Cole Young, and like so he's probably going to end up at second. Like like body wise, like those guys are more athletic than he is, so it just makes more sense. But if you have a second baseman who can hit 20 to 25 homers and then also chip in another 30-ish doubles or whatever, and 5 steals and hit 250, 260, that's pretty solid. I mean, like this, like I said, it's like nothing to sneeze
Mhm.
at because he's got a high floor, right? Like he has really good plate skills and a nice plate approach, even though the contact rate isn't like spectacular. And you can see if you're watching on YouTube that the splits against lefties is not great. He's hitting 154 against lefties this year, 286 against righties. So, I mean, like he is at least hitting homers against lefties. So there is like power there against lefties. So that doesn't mean he's like straight platoon, especially at this point in time, being a 20-year-old, like he can work on that. But I think there's a very solid player here. And like for points leagues in particular, pretty interesting guy. So let's move now to number 49. 49 is starting pitcher Robbie Snelling with the Marlins, who like really started out the season on fire. Got a lot of velo uptick. And this is a guy who was like really, really good in 2023. He was high on people's lists, blah, blah, blah. And then last year kind of fell off completely until the Padres traded him to the Marlins. And I'm just like always been of this mindset where I'm like, okay, the Padres are great at drafting guys, but they're not very good at developing guys. And the guys that do develop as Padres guys move so fast through the farm system because like Jackson Merrill just like boom, zoom up straight through the farm system. And now I see DeVries doing the same thing. And it's kind of like, do they, and like even like Salas, they moved him so fast. And it's just like, do they know that like their lower minors, they're just not good at developing guys? So like, hey, let's get them to the higher leagues where our good coaches are, because we don't pay those coaches down there very well. And like, that's just kind of like the feeling I get with the Padres system. So like Snelling kind of fell off and then goes to the Marlins and all of a sudden starts getting it back. And then this last year, he adds a couple ticks, right? He was throwing the fastball like 93 last year. He's up to 95 to 97 this year. Changeup is also up. Sliders up. So, when you add ticks to your fastball and you turn it from a 93 mile per hour to a 95 mile per hour, that's kind of a big deal. And especially from the left side. And then kind of the same thing with the slider. If you turn an 83 mile per hour slider into an 85 mile per hour slider, that's a pretty big deal to hit those metrics, because like that's like your break even. Like Eno talks about that a lot. Like you want a slider that's like 85 or higher. You want a fastball that's like 95 or higher. You don't want a low 90s fastball. So I think that's kind of been the difference for him this year, is just adding that velocity. And maybe also just being an org that's better at developing pitchers. What do you think, Chris?
All right, so let's go on to the Padres first. You're talking about an organization that's most organizations out there, for your listeners, are model driven draft teams, which means that whether the scouting input's there or whatever, their draft board's based off of some sort of mixture of what the model is picking out and that sort of thing. The Padres are like the last of the pure scouting amateur drafts. So I had a scouting buddy tell me when they took James Wood a few years ago and gave him all that money, like none of those model teams would have touched James Wood. Okay, his data leading into the season, blast data, that sort of thing, wasn't impressive at all. If you went and watched him, it wasn't impressive at all. But there's AJ Preller. Going to watch him. Everybody knows that Preller's at the game. There's a very good chance that they're extremely interested. I mean, that's how they knew about Jackson Merrill. Like there were teams, and there was multiple teams, like maybe 3 or 4 teams that thought, all right, we're going to be able to get Jackson Merrill in the early second round. And then they saw AJ Preller come to town, and they knew right then, without talking to anybody, that more than likely he was going to fall in love with this kid who's very, very talented. And and from my understanding, like teams that scout the Mid Atlantic with talking about Merrill were really, really that do it well. Were really hot on him. Like some of the teams that aren't really well known for their Mid Atlantic scouting weren't really on him. I heard that like the Cubs really thought that they were going to snatch him until Preller showed up. And the Cubs draft as good as anybody out of the Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina area. There is a track record. On my last podcast with Jared Sedler from Baseball Perspectives, we talked about it. Like literally, Zaire Hope is a perfect example of the guy that we're going to talk about a little later that they got from that area of the country. So the Padres are going to take risks that other teams don't take. And you're right, the player development has not been there. I had a scout from another team kind of put it this way. Like, is there such thing as player development nowadays? There's all these labs, yes. But is there actually nuts and bolts player development? It's you get sent to a lab and you're fixed like this and fixed like that. And then when you get broken again, you go back to the lab and you get fixed. But there's not really a development. And this is from a scout from a smart organization too. It's you'd be surprised, well thought of. You'd be surprised that this guy would say such a thing, but it's true. It's true. That's why teams like the Braves, the Padres. I disqualify the Angels from this conversation. I think that from what I understand, is part of that is the kind of what you said. They're paying their coaches closer to the big leagues better and all of that kind of stuff, and they're better coaches. Ron Washington is manager. Ron Washington should be in the Hall of Fame as a assistant coach, like as a infield coach and all of those things, third base coach. I know I'm getting away from this situation, but I do want to kind of explain why the Padres are who they are. Now with Robbie Snelling last year, I just pulled up the video. I scouted his first game in the Southern League when he got traded to the Marlins and stuff. And like they instantly made changes. They moved him from one side of the rubber to another side of the rubber. I was told that they just asked him, "What do you feel comfortable with?" The Padres apparently had tinkered so much with him that he lost the feel, he lost that muscle memory, he lost all those things. Also, I went to this game with the sole reason, granted, I made money on the article that I wrote, but I also needed something for a presentation that I was doing in a different industry in Denver, which was I was doing a evaluation bias thing using baseball, but to a group of appraisers, real estate appraisers, like literally. And I wanted this because I felt like in 2023 we saw all of this great data from him, but we ignored some very obvious things that we should still pay attention to. Strike rate specifically. Fastball strike rate was low for him. His in zone stuff. And I know that we don't have all the data, especially that he's in double A now. We're not getting
Mhm.
the whole picture right now. But I would say that his struggles have probably come because he doesn't throw enough strikes. The data is great. All of that stuff is great. Um, I actually don't know who's developing in the Marlins system. They've had so much chaos um, over the last year, change of GMs, change of stuff. I've heard stories that I wish I could tell the audience right now that actually is taking place in the Marlins organization where people didn't even know who their boss was. And we're talking about like maybe 18 months ago, 24 months ago. Like that's the organization he came. So I don't know what kind of player development. We're seeing strides with some other guys like Thomas White. I think we've seen some developmental strides with him. I wonder. It's obvious that Snelling is getting more power out of his delivery, but I still don't believe he's probably throwing a lot of strikes with his fastball. And I feel like the hitters caught on to it. He probably had a high chase rate to start the year, and it's probably come down because they know he can't throw that fastball in the zone consistently.
Yeah, you see actually his first couple starts, he's throwing like 55, 58% strikes, and then it went down. So maybe prob- maybe what happened was, I mean, that might just be a command thing with him, but maybe what happened is there was a pitch that guys just started laying off after the first few starts. But now you've got him, he's ticking back up. So I think he's kind of getting back the feel a little bit, just looking at pure strike and ball rate. Like we don't have per pitch data, but like at least we have like total strike rate and
Yeah.
total ball rate to go off of. So we kind of have to make, unless you're watching every single pitch, you kind of have to make assumptions on that, on like what may or may not be going on. But yeah, he's an interesting one. I think like the stuff is there. It's a great org. And like that's what, like, where do you have him ranked? Do you have
I
him
have
like?
him. Beginning of the season, he was outside of my top 150.
Mhm.
I was very while I thought he made strides, I have an issue where I think that this works. I think this is a major league arm. I think this is a long time major league arm, but I'm still debating whether he's in the SP bucket or the RP bucket. And we're going to talk about another player that just is making his major league debut, Jason Mizorowski, that has the same little bucket part
Mhm.
that I'm still like not quite sure, even though he's in the major leagues now, which bucket he actually fits in. So like those guys tend to be outside my top 50. And that's where Mizorowski was last year. I would say Snelling's somewhere in that 75 to 125 range right now. Just because I don't trust his strike throwing ability, and that's key. They teach you how to throw strikes in the minor leagues. They teach you how
Yeah.
to throw balls when you like that's the transition, and he still hasn't gotten to the point where he can throw strikes consistently.
Yeah, I mean, like Mick Abel took a couple of years too to get to that point, so he could be like kind
Yeah,
of one of these guys that stalls out for a year or something at a level, and then maybe he has the Mick Abel type progression, right? So
yeah,
I had him at 130 last time, and I maybe I bumped him too high to 49. I also wrote this a couple weeks ago, but like I like the stuff, I dig the stuff, I dig the velocity, and he's been very successful before. So I think he's a guy who has the will to make it happen. Like you said, like you think he's going to be a major league arm. Like I agree with you. Like I don't think he's going to stall out and not make the majors, especially now that he's in a system that knows how to develop pitchers. So like I'm pretty positive on him. I mean he's still young. He's 21 at Double A, so he has still a lot of time.
and we're two different evaluators at different stages of our evaluation. Um, you're where I wish I was some days, where I'm trying to see the silver lining. And on days like this, I will tell myself to be more like Tim. And then you're going to take a lesson from me where, okay, maybe I need to be a little more negative
Yeah.
about a guy because of that. Own this. If you think he's 49, he's 49. If I think he's somewhere between 75 and 125, I'm going to own that. Uh, we're only wrong if our process is wrong. And I feel like your process is where you arrived at this, you got to a right place. And mine is kind of like farmers insurance. I know a thing or two because they've been around for so long. But then, even then, I don't know when to sometimes change and sometimes evolve. So, like with something like this, I'm sometimes the last to embrace a Robbie Snelling.
Yeah, that makes sense. 48, you already kind of touched on him for a quick second. It's outfielder Johnny Farmello with the Mariners. Man, he was looking so good last year. I feel like he has the potential to be one of these really high type guys. Like you already mentioned, like he's got tools that could get to elite levels. Like he's a guy that could end up as a top 10, top 15 prospect at some point in his progression here. He just has to stay on the field. He got hurt last year, missed a bunch of time, only played in 46 games. This year started the season hurt, so he didn't, start until like when I wrote my article, he'd only played 14 games already, but he was showing more power already this year. So
Mhm.
that's a good thing because last year we saw a lot of speed and a lot of doubles and great plate skills, but this year he was getting to the power. So, and I like kind of knew it was in there. As a big athletic lefty outfielder for the Mariners who has maybe five tool potential. Like the one tool that I worry about with him is the hit tool, I think. Because he has power, he has speed, he's got extra base hits, he's got a good eye. Walked 16% of the time last year, even though this year he's striking out too much. I think he's going to tick that back down. The contact rate this year is 64.7%. So that's
Mhm.
not great. And like his splits are not perfect either, but I mean, it's a small sample size. You're not going to make anything out of 13 appearances against plate appearances against lefties. So Farmello, I think, has a lot of room. Like he's a guy who could really kind of climb the rankings, like you already prefaced. Like not like Arroyo, who might be like topped out as like maybe he gets to like a top 40 guy or something like that. But I think Farmello has a lot of room in the rankings.
And Tim, I agree with that. I think that there's upside here that's untapped. And you mentioned it too. It's that power potential. And that's what I really bought into. So when he was draft year 2023, Mid Atlantic, another Mid Atlantic guy, and you've got tons of Mid Atlantic guys. One of probably the most undervalued scouting environments to us, but not to teams. Anyway, this is a kid that was a blast data darling when he was coming up, when he was in his draft year, and that's what I heard from a couple cross checkers that were on him. And one area guy too was really high on him. I don't have any contacts with any Mariner sources, so you know, but I do like what they do. I like that um, when guys are making adjustments in that organization, you'll see guys adjust a bunch at one time. Where at the Mariners organization, however they're operating, it's small things that add up over time. It's all right. Let's get the muscle memory. Let's just move the hands back. And I'm not saying that's what they do. They've done with Farmelo. I haven't actually watched him this year because he's been hurt. And man, there's something about scouting the high A league that I hate. I hate the Northwest League. I just hate it. The video sucks. All of that kind of stuff sucks. And then also like you can't really judge power in that league. Like it's just so explosive. But the thing that you pointed out was the hit tool. And last year it was a long lumbering swing at times. So plenty of bat speed, don't get me wrong, but like there were times where I felt like he wasn't getting to his max EV or high EV because simply his swing was just so long. So like I can envision, and I've seen the Mariners do this with other prospects, where it's a step by step process to get them more compact, get them that hit position quicker, meaning moving those hands back, getting their the leverage essentially worked out, where guys don't feel like they have to go out and around the ball to lift it. Where now your leverage is coming from having a firm front side and those sort of things. So like I think that this kid's one of those guys that has tremendous upside. I have him ranked around the same place that you do. So we're on board for probably the same reasons, it sounds like.
Yeah. So do you think though that since maybe he's trying to change his swing a little bit to get better bat speed and get around on the ball a little quicker, do you think that's why the contact rate is down because he's changing his mechanics a little bit and he's just going to take him a little to like warm up to maybe some changes he's making because his contact rate last year was almost 80%. So
Yeah.
it's down pretty significantly this year and his swing strike rate is basically doubled from last year. So
It's
like it's
15
obvious it's
it's
obvious.
also 15 games, dude.
Yeah, yeah, it's 15 games, a small sample size, and he's getting to more power. So he's obviously like, and like even his swing rate is up. Last year he was only swinging 36% of the time. This year he's swinging 48% of the time. So
Yeah.
he's just being a little more aggressive, and sometimes it's good. Sometimes you'll take that. You'll be like, okay, you'll hit the ball less, but at least you're gonna make really good impact as long as you don't turn into Spencer Jones. Like, sometimes you'll take that. So, what do you think? You think this is just a part of the game, and
I think that's a part of the game. I do expect some. I expected some regression. I hate to hear it's been that much, even though it's such a small sample size. But last year it was when I looked at him. I think I looked at him. I scouted him maybe in May on video on I think Spokane's video feed, which is just unforgivable video fatigue. I'm just telling you, I just hate all of them. Like Florida State League, where you're at, has just gotten so much better. It used to just be one team with good, and now like there's several teams with good feeds. The Northwest League, I feel like, has gone down. I think if Vancouver has a decent feed, I think that's who I try to see guys. But anyway, I know that's getting off topic here. Uh, but like if you're getting more lift in your swing, you're gonna most of the time get unless you're Zaire Hope, you're gonna get more swings and misses. I mean, it's a trade-off. It's at first pitch Arizona in 2023, we had Kyle Manzardo was on a podcast with Welsh, Saris, and well, no, Welsh and the CBS guy. I can't think of his name. Really nice dude.
Frank.
Um, yes, yeah. Who?
Frank, right?
Yes, Frank, of course. Man, I can't believe I forgot Frank's first name. But anyway, was no, they had. Never mind. It was Eno. It was Welsh and Eno and DVP, and DVR, and he mentioned about getting to more power and sacrificing contact, and the reasons why he did it. Now, Manzardo, I knew was eventually going to kind of figure it out. I mean, the way he talks about hitters, guys don't talk like that to the media. They don't know how to explain their process. They know their process, but they don't know how to explain it. Guys like Manzardo, the like when he struggled last year, got as many hits. But that's what you're doing is you're sacrificing something for another thing, and that's what baseball is. You very few guys can do what Zaire Hope has done this year, where he's making more contact while also getting more elevation, which he already had a steep swing playing, and essentially hitting more home runs.
Yeah, 47. This is a speedster. Outfielder Justin Crawford with the Phillies. Obviously, this guy is doing like the counter to what we just discussed with Farmello. Like he doesn't care. He's hitting the ball on the ground like 60% of the time, but he's hitting 328 or whatever. So like you're not going to complain about that. You're just like, okay, he's super fast. That's fine. Just get on base and steal bags. It's almost like you don't want him to hit the ball in the air too much because you just want him to try to get on base and use the speed. And he's just really leaning into it. Even though he has some power, he had 9 home runs last year, Justin Crawford. So I mean, like he's got some power. He doesn't have to go full like Juan Pierre on this. He could go like a little his dad, Carl Crawford, and like he gets to some power, at least like halfway. Maybe he won't get to 20 homers, but maybe he's shown that he could hit 10 to 15 bombs. But he does make good contact. He has great speed. He has pretty good plate skills. It's just like, what kind of power are we going to get from him? And do you want, like, are you the type of guy that wants a speedster? Because like me, like I almost like unless I'm really need stolen bases in one league or something. Like most of the time, I just don't want these types of prospects on my team. Like I want someone who's going to be more than just some speed. But that's kind of just like a personal how do you play your game type question as a fantasy player. So what do you think on Justin Crawford? Like where are you at on him? Like I think he's probably going to be up pretty soon. I mean, like they just called up Otto Kemp, so like I wouldn't put it past the Phillies to have him up in the next month or two and playing center for them. But what do you think about Crawford?
So like in today's game, you don't see guys with negative launch angles in their swing, and like there's been months where Crawford has had a negative launch angle. So like that's something. Here's the crazy thing. When I've scouted him in the past, like I've never seen him hit it on the ground in game. Like it's really funny, but like a lot of that is because of his lower half. His lower half is like just ugly. It's one reason I was never really on Austin Martin, who was a high draft pick for the Blue Jays several years ago, was I really felt like he had no idea of how to get to leverage in his swing. So essentially, those 9 home runs are derivative of the exit velocity. Essentially, his ability to hit the ball hard and allowing like essentially the top spin, hitting it so hard that the top spin can't drive it into the ground. Okay. We're not talking about a guy that's going to loft a bunch of home runs. Now, I know from what I've heard is the Phillies were a little upset with his development last season. They didn't feel like they saw any strides of him getting to the lift. So every time, and I talked about this on my podcast, I think last week with Jared. I don't think it came up this week with Reese White, but with Jared Sedler, we talked about like, hey, let's check out his ground ball rate. Oh, it's still the same. Well, there you go. Now, for every Crawford, there's a Yandy Diaz that finds some lift at some point, but like most guys like this will never find lift. If it's been this long in development and we're still waiting for lift, it's most likely not going to come. There's a 5% chance, and that's what Andy had at the time. Now, obviously, there's more tools here. The guy can run very, very fast. I mean, it's a plus plus run tool. I saw him make some great reads in center field. That's where I got my sense of his running. I actually never saw him get on base in any of my looks to really see if he was actually some dude I need to really consider or whatever. Again, like this game is so driven by loft that I feel like a guy like Justin Crawford, even in my own rankings, I've ranked him low. Uh, but I feel like he's a guy that you're going to have such a wide range of feelings about him, where Tim is higher than I am, where there's probably somebody much higher than Tim, and then there's me who probably has him barely in their top 100, where then there's another guy that has him nowhere in his 150. Like you're gonna see the views are gonna be so divisive on this guy. But I always think there's value in that. If you're gonna throw something value, would you rather have somebody that everybody's debating, and you don't know who uh, Joe Dirt is? I hate that name, Joe whatever. Is consider who he's looking at. Is he checking out Tim's rankings, or is he checking out Chris's rankings, or he's checking out that other guy that doesn't have him in the top 100 at all? You don't know that. I feel like he's a rosterable guy, even though I might not believe in him, just based on the speed, based on the exit velocity, and I don't know what his real approach will be in the big leagues. I don't know if he's a spray guy. It'll be an interesting spray guy if he is a spray guy, because he does hit the ball so hard. Is he going to be lining into a lot of uh, outs as opposed to a guy that's going to dunk and dive that has that spray profile? It's very interesting because I don't think we've seen somebody with this speed and this ability to hit the ball, but only hit it hard on the ground come along in at least since I've been covering in 2009.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Well, at least it's been a long time since someone has done it successfully, right? Like we've always seen these guys. They're like, oh, maybe a Story Ruiz can come in, but no, he hit the ball in the air way too much, and that's like the problem. It's like so that's why I'm like kind of positive about him. I'm like, oh, okay. You almost want him to just hit the ball on the ground, get on base, and then steal bags. That's just like what if you're drafting Justin Crawford, or if you're holding Justin Crawford as a prospect, you're doing that because you want stolen bases. Like you're not doing it for anything else. It's like you want stolen bases and you want a pretty good batting average, and that's all you're looking for. Like, do not look for power.
And my concern is really like, is he hitting the ball too hard? Like where Chandler Simpson's not hitting the ball hard enough, but with a similar profile, a Duncan, spray profile. Like if you combined the hit tools of Chandler Simpson and Justin Crawford, you might have one of the best speedsters ever. You might have Juan Pierre again. Like really.
Yeah. And that's the dream. That's the dream with Crawford, is getting Juan Pierre. 46 starting pitcher Logan Henderson with the Brewers. I can't believe this, Chris, with how the Brewers are. It's like, what are they doing here? They promoted Niziurowski instead of bringing Henderson back. I'm just like, what? It's like so confusing. I have him in a couple of leagues, and I'm like, what do I even do with him right now? It's like, well, I guess they're just trying to conserve innings because he only pitched like 82 innings last year. Like there's really no other explanation. So maybe they're going to try to hold him to like 120 or 130 or something. But Logan Henderson has been fired this year. And like a lot of people didn't really believe in him because he's a four-seam changeup guy. But I always liked him. Like I had him last preseason ranked at 86 or preseason before the season started. So I always liked him. I was always pretty high on him. Like I know Welsh is pretty high on him too. And we podcasted together. So we were both kind of like pretty high on him together. And like he rates well in my scores. And I just like the reason that I like him so much is because even though he's fastball change, his fastball is really, really good. And sometimes if you just have a really, really good fastball, that's okay to be fastball change. Like his fastball is better than, like people want to say, oh, he's going to be Chris Paddock or, Thorpe or whatever. But his fastball is much better than those two guys. So that's kind of like why I'm okay with Henderson, is because the fastball is superior. I mean, like he ran at AAA, his fastball swing strike rate this year is 19.9%, which is pretty insane on a fastball. So I think I'm just okay with him because his fastball is really good. He has a lot of rise on that fastball. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. Good fastball. Maybe there's some Chris Paddock quote unquote risk with him, but the fastball is much better, and big, like, good fastballs are really what like makes or breaks a pitcher right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. A good fastball is the ingredient of any uh, good pitcher out there right now. With Henderson, I think that guys like me have underrated him because of, again, you're dealing with a guy that's dealing with angles, like, and sometimes an angle, a guy that really takes advantage of angles, creating angles, essentially what you're saying, ride, that's an angle, that's an illusion, that's all of that stuff. From his arm slot, which is what, just below 3/4, I think. I don't think he's like
Mhm.
low 3/4, but it's like just below 3/4, if I remember right. I actually scouted him a couple years ago, and really and truly, like, kind of thought he would just be a solid regular, like, back end starter type deal. And this year has kind of opened me up to the possibility that he's much better than that. I think once you see it play at the major leagues, and see, that's the hard thing. I think of a player before we had a lot of these analytic looks at the science of the fastball that was public. We couldn't really understand why Joe Ryan was so good with
Mhm.
his fastball, even though it was not your traditional really good fastball. Now we know why Joe Ryan has a good fastball. I think that the it was a moment where I was like, all right, this guy didn't necessarily blow me away when I saw him, and I kind of kept him where I should have probably put him forward because of those characteristics, using those angles. And this success at the major league level has been phenomenal. I mean, you look, the fastball changeup is working for him. That was another thing I dinged him on. That, hey, dude doesn't really have a breaking pitch. I don't think you necessarily need a breaking pitch these days. And it's funny because I was a high guy on Chris Paddock when he was coming up, to the point that, like, Sarris quoted me in athletic articles because I was the Chris Paddock guy. But the thing is you get bit by Chris Paddock because, and I'll say this: the mechanics aren't are better with Logan Henderson than they were at Chris Paddock at the same age, same level, and stuff. It's a better package. He's also being developed in a better organization. You had a guy go from Marlins, Padres to Twins to a kid that is in one of the best pitching development systems in baseball. I'm not surprised by this. This is, I've recently pointed out to one of my Mets friends, because they're kind of building a similar pitching, organization there. That, like, look at a guy like Logan Henderson, because, like, there's they're essentially being the Brewers, but with money. If you really think
Yeah.
about it. And
Yeah.
so they're taking a guy, they're going to have their own Logan Henderson someday, like, very soon. I don't know who it is. I don't see him right now. Most of their guys are big velocity dudes and stuff, but they're going to get into this area where they're going to find these guys that rely on angles, rely on efficiency, rely on spin. I don't like using tunnels anymore. I hate tunnels. I used to use tunnels all the time, but it's really creating angles. It's not necessarily creating tunnels, or pitching everything out. It's creating these angles, and the four seam changeup angle being like almost like a 90%, 95% on those two pitches is incredible to be able to do that. If he were if he were to throw a cutter better, like even just the cutter at like maybe 10% and be a really reliable pitch, 10 to 15%, it would just make the whole thing work specifically as an SP3. And that's where I have him right now. He's an SP3 for me.
Yeah, which is pretty solid, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to find guys like that for pitchers because pitchers are just so volatile, and he's always had good command too. So that's another thing too. It's just like a pitcher with good command, and then it translates to the majors because a lot of these pitchers they'll be great at Double A or High A, and then when they get to Triple A with the ABS, they struggle so much because the command is it looks like it's there, but it's like an illusion because they're not throwing it in the
Mhm.
zone. They're just getting swings and misses because guys are swinging at stuff outside of the zone. Once you're forced to throw it in the zone at Triple A, that's kind of like a big make or break for a lot of these pitchers right now. 45 is outfielder Charlie Condon. Interesting guy. Awesome in college. Was terrible last year. Hurt at the beginning of this year, and he's actually looked pretty solid since coming back healthy. And this is a dude where I was just like, I really don't know what to do with him because I had such a small sample size from him this year when I did my last ranking, and he was so bad last year after being really good in college and having really weird home road splits. Like at home, he was awesome in college, like 482, 530, 1125 slash line at home, but on the road, 279, 367, 698. Then you got all these rumors of SEC shenanigans and stuff like that in the dugouts. So you're just like, okay, like how real is this guy? Like if he knows what pitch is coming, maybe he's awesome. But like, does he actually have a good plate approach, or is it just like the dude has a lot of really good power and he knows what's coming so he can mash it. So like that's kind of where I'm at on him is like I just don't know if like does he have to start from like if that was the case, like just assuming if that was the case, does he have to start from complete scratch now on like developing himself as I actually have to like figure out how to have a plate approach now. Like that's kind of like where I'm at. I just like don't really know how to project him without more data at this point. Where are you at on Condon? Like, what is your feeling toward him right now as a prospect?
I'm out on Condon. I've been out on Condon since before he was drafted. In a lot of respects, I still ranked him high because the consensus at the time, but this offseason I dumped him pretty far down. I may have had him in my top 50 with the phenoms list, but that there's a lot that goes into that. It's not a true fantasy list or anything like that. And he was the top ranked draft pick on so many public places. So um, my concern at Georgia, which was for folks, I'm in Georgia. I've helped out teams in Georgia. I was kind of unofficially helping out a team last year, so I didn't really you didn't hear my loud opinion of this until after the draft. If you are a subscriber or you're a listener to the podcast, I a Foley Field, his home park, UGA, is a right-handed home run hitting haven. Like it's like Asheville for left-handed hitters in the formerly in the Rockies organization and then in the Astros organization right now. Like I throw it all out. Like, all right, let me see what happens on the road. My biggest issue was in his load. When he loads his hands, and I can't really let's see if I can do this. When he loads his hands, okay, he has them back. He dips them, and he dips them because they're so low, and then he coils. So he has all of this time where he's essentially, even though he has bat speed, it's wasting time getting to the hit position and getting it started. Now, you know if the pitch is coming, or if you're a good guess hitter and you're guessing situations, you're going to. It's not going to be an issue. But like, I never had him as 1-1. I thought he was a first round talent in last year's draft. I hate it that he went to the Rockies. Hate it. And my podcast, if you've listened the last 2, 3 weeks, I've crap talked a ton. My guests have crap talked a ton about Rockies development. I feel like they have a very good eye for talent. I think you can see it in their international game, especially. But who has actually improved in that? When I think it was Jared, I keep on going back. We had a 2 hour and 2.5 hour conversation, so that's why I keep going back to it. But he brought up when Brenton Doyle is your showcase dude of hey, we developed Brenton Doyle, like and I'm not. I know Doyle's having an off season and stuff, but like he wasn't spectacular last year. He was good, but he wasn't spectacular. And they treated it like it was a win for the Rockies, and well, he's regressed again. I don't believe in this organization. I don't know if they even are allowing their people to do work in labs or anything like that, or because they are. I hate to say this, they're under contracted as contracted employees, but their development is pretty much up to the team and the player. And if the player is able to get another year and block out the year of this side, great. But I haven't seen any evidence in this organization doing that. Right
Mhm.
now, Charlie Condon's off my top 100, both real world, like Baseball America, those folks, Fangraphs, that sort of thing, what Longenhagen does there, and in fantasy. Like, I just can't buy into this until I see some improvement in his swing mechanics. I'm going to believe that he's not going to essentially make it. But hey, I was dumping on Austin Hendricks all year, and I see he's hidden. So like guys can change, guys can fix their swing. It's and don't go and roster Austin Hendricks since I said that. He's gone from a major league from a guy who was a really bad first round pick to a guy who might actually get to the major leagues. Like, don't go and roster him.
I'm there with you. I just like I agree. Like I feel like my spot where I put him is almost just like a placeholder. I'm like, okay, he's really good in college. Let's let's kind of see what he can do before like I'm just like on the edge. I'm on like the precipice of doing what you did is like basically what I've been doing, but
Yeah.
I've been kind of teetering it because I'm like, there's always like still a chance. Like we don't have a big enough sample size yet for me to just like kick him. But I love how aggressive you are with that. That's awesome.
See, on the
40.
on and what I mean by the phenoms list with Lindy's that I do every year is I've got to be within the industry there. Like it's not Chris Blessing's personal opinion. Where my top 100 fantasy list or my HQ 100, whatever you want to call it, is Chris's personal list that gets thrown into a bigger list with a few other writers and stuff. And well, I do have editorial control over it too. So like I could probably push guys up or down. I don't do that, but I could. Well, I did. One time I took Forrest Whitley off the top 100, but like the editor also agreed with me too. Like, you know, hopefully none of my folks are listening, but then they're probably listening, going, "Well, I'm glad you did that because like it was bad." But anyway, like again, like they were two different lists, but on my personal list, I never really been high on Condon. I wasn't high on last year's draft. I think Cam Smith has impressed compared to what I thought he was. I think I misevaluated him, but I feel like I've evaluated everybody pretty much well, except for maybe the number one pick, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll get to him. 44 catcher Drake Baldwin. Well, I'll try to go a little faster because we are already at 53 minutes with like six guys. Drake Baldwin, he's in the majors, so you've seen what he can do. He's been very, very good since he's been there. Right now, kind of like his problem, if you own him in fantasy, is that the Braves also have Sean Murphy, and we talked about on the last podcast. Welsh and I were talking about Kyle Teal, and I even like threw this to him. I'm like, okay. Right now, if you had to pick Kyle Teal or Drake Baldwin, which one are you going with? Just like if you need a catcher on a team for this year, like which of those two guys are you going with?
Oh, this year, I probably go with, and for whatever reason, my keyboard stopped working. I would probably go with Teal for this year, but for the future, I think that it's Baldwin. And why I say Teal is I think he has opportunity. Baldwin's going to be in this mess, this mix, I should say, not mess. But the Braves are a mess if you know that. I'm not a Braves fan, but I do live in Georgia and I hear about it all the freaking time. But like they might move Murphy. I like not overexposing Baldwin early in his career. I think so many guys, so many teams overexpose catchers early on, and I think the Braves have done really well through the years. William Contreras is a perfect example of a guy that they did not overexpose, and let him develop his tools in the major leagues. And then when he got traded to the Brewers, of course, it all kind of took off. I know he's not having the greatest year this year, but like uh, I feel like catchers need that time to essentially get used to the big leagues. So
Mhm.
I mean, I've seen so much Drake Baldwin because he was at Rome and he was at Mississippi, and those are two teams I see a whole lot of. And like he always impressed me. I always thought he should rank higher. At one point, I thought I was the high guy, and then I saw Eric Longenhagen like really love him this last offseason. And I gave Longenhagen a hard time. I was like, I thought I was the one in love with him, but like he was like, "No, dude, I took it from you. Sorry, Chris."
You can't argue with a 91% zone contact rate and
Yes,
92 average EVs with a 112 max EV. It's just a stellar combination for a catcher. And I agree with you. That's kind of like the old school way to do it. Even like people will forget, but even Yadier Molina was like the backup to Mike Matheny for a whole year
yep.
before we kind of like ran with it. So people will forget that, but that was like the way to do it for years and years. And then like it's just not really done anymore. People will just like throw the rookies right in there. So
The
I agree with you.
catcher position specifically needs to be developed that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got so much going on as a catcher that you need that time between games to work on, being a better pitch caller, understanding scouting report. You got to think that this guy has every scouting report in his head of the pitchers because he has to hit off of them, and the hitters because he has to call pitches for them. So like uh, it's
It's a lot.
I would assume that catchers end up being good office managers if they don't end up in, making a lot of money playing baseball because they are having to juggle so many things at one time.
Yeah. It's like a quarterback. I mean, back in the day, quarterbacks also they were drafted. Even if you drafted a quarterback 1-1, a lot of the time they sat for a year. So it's
Yeah.
like, and now they just throw them right in the fire. It's like, it's like, I guess it kind of goes with like today's day and age where nobody has patience anymore and everyone's just like, no, just get to it. Like, I can't wait. So, next player on the list is a guy that I've had probably too much patience for. 43 outfielder Chase DeLauder. I just want him to stay healthy. This guy has to be the most injury prone prospect in baseball. I joked that he should be on the Twins because he gets hurt so much. So, but he's really good. It's just like just stay on the field. We need to see him stay on the field. Always has had a good plate approach. Contact tool is okay. It's average, whatever, 76% contact rate, 80 zone. It's okay. This year he's hitting the ball a little bit on the ground too much, but he does have good EVs and should get to some power and also throw in some speed in the mix too. So I don't know. Like I think this is a guy who should be pretty consistently like a 260 hitter with some walks and go 20 homers, 10 steals, which is a really solid outfielder. For the Guardians, who like have never been able to develop good outfielders for whatever reason, like they're great at developing shortstops and middle infielders, but they can't develop outfielders. But where are you at on DeLauder?
Uh, I would never have him ranked as high as you have him anymore. I was in love with him when he got drafted. But the signs were already there. He was injury prone at James Madison as well. And these foot issues, it's continual foot issues. I know that there's hernia as well, and there's been some hamstring, but he's broken his foot a couple times, I think. Has had so many injuries, and I'll just be honest with you. Like it scares me. The foot injuries specifically ongoing really scare me. Um, I saw him at the AFL the last 2 years in person. Last year, he had a very interesting, thing where he was at the Guardians complex in Goodyear, and then they would call him the day before and say, "Yeah, we're gonna use you in a game today," and he would come up. Like, he wasn't with his teammates all the time, but usually AFL, you're with your teammates, and so he'd come, if you got lucky, I got to see him twice last year essentially get called, to be DH and stuff. But on those other days, he wasn't there. Like he was working at the complex. Um, you always get a little concerned when somebody's hiding at the complex. and only coming out on certain times. And we're going to get to a pitcher very shortly that was hiding at the complex this spring. And uh, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, just quick, the Lauder, uh, he's still, because of the talent, he's still a top 100 prospect. But for me, the injuries, man, I just can't.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, he's only played a total of like 110 games or something in 3 seasons. But it's like between 2024 and 2023, in like 90 games, he had 45 extra base hits. So it's like it's there. It's just like stay on the field. Like I said, hopefully, yeah, it's like he's a Twins prospect. Like he should be with the Twins. 42 outfielder Cole Carrig with the Rockies. Pretty volatile dude here, but he
Mhm.
just has so much upside as a fantasy guy. Like I like him a lot better for fantasy than I do for like as a real life player. But like you said, the Rockies are terrible at developing, so that's always a concern. But there's just such like a power speed mix in a guy like this. It reminds me of like your old school like Jacoby Ellisberry or Grady Sizemore type profile that you might get into. Like I comped him to like Jaron Duran. Jaron Duran coming up took some time too to develop before he turned into who he is now. So just thinking about like early Jaron Duran here, but like there's just a really good power speed mix here, and it's all about can he not strike out? Like if he can avoid the strikeouts, then I think he's going to get to that because with his speed and the way he plays, he should run high BABIPs. So even if like his contact rate isn't the greatest, he'll probably still be hitting like 250, 260, something like that. Just because his speed, he's going to run high BABIPs. So like I'm not as concerned about the hit tool per se as I am about the strikeouts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about the strikeouts. I have him in my 75 to 100 range at this point. But he's a guy that I've rostered in several fantasy leagues just because I felt like he was a guy that I could get at a bit of a discount at the time. That maybe with a good month or two, he, you know, captures some, you know, lightning in the bottle or something like that. Uh, I don't think he's going to make enough contact. I think zone contact rate is so important for power hitters. And I don't think that the zone contact rate is going to be at a point where this is going to be, he's going to get to all of those tools and stuff. So, and I also, really see kind of a platoon, you know, most guys like this that end up making to the major leagues end up in platoons.
The splits are pretty good though. I mean, he's hitting 346 against lefties.
Okay.
So I mean, he's a switch hitter. And so basically all his power is coming against righties, but he's hitting 346 against lefties. So maybe he doesn't have power from one side, but at least he's hitting for good average from that side.
How
So
many at bats?
28, so it's a small sample size. But for me, I just think that there's such a nice skill set here from a guy who's also playing like catcher, shortstop, center field. And I was like, maybe if
Mhm.
they settle him down and just pick a spot, and they're like, okay, you're gonna play here, focus on hitting. You're not gonna be moving around. Like this year, for instance, he's played at DH, only 3 games in right, and then he's playing right and left. So he's only been playing in the outfield. He has not played
Yeah.
shortstop this year, and he hasn't played catcher since 2023. So they're basically like pigeoning him into the outfield this year, which I think is good. It's good to like settle him into a spot so maybe he can focus on hitting instead of like, hey, you're gonna have to be Mookie Betts here, like moving to
Mhm.
every other position, because I don't think he has the talent of Mookie Betts to do that. So it's like let's just figure out the hit tool here, man, and settle in one spot. So unless you have anything else on Cole Carrick, we can move to 41.
All right.
All right, 41. Feldon Celestin with the Mariners. Uh, Feldon is a guy that I am pushing pretty heavily here. He hasn't shown a ton yet because he's just been an A-ball for a little bit now, but I really like everything that he has. He's a good size switch hitting athletic shortstop, and he has plus tools. So he's got plus power, plus speed, pretty good hit tool, and he was awesome at complex. The hit tool so far has not been as good as the complex, which is kind of standard. And one of the things too, I think he broke his hamate bone last year at the end of the year. So the power hasn't, like, we haven't really seen, like, we don't have EV data, at least I don't.
I don't yet.
How hard he's hitting the ball right now, but he was hitting the ball really hard at complex last year. Like, there were reports of him hitting it, in the like the 110s and stuff as an 18-year-old. So, which is pretty good. So I think there should be more power there than what we're seeing right now, and maybe this is a result of coming off of the hamate bone. But what do you think on Feldman? Like, where are you at on Feldman?
I'm about in the same range. I might be a little bit maybe into the 50s. Just for everybody, I haven't made my rankings yet. I've only put people in buckets. So before I make my dynasty rankings, which we usually roll out in July at Baseball HQ, I put guys in buckets of where I think the players that they're around should be taken or should be, essentially ranked. So I have him in a bucket with a bunch of 40 and 50s. So I think he ends up turning somewhere on the other side of 50. But that's only because of the missed time. Like, again, he's missed a lot of time. Um, it's just what it is. He's in age 19-year-old season right now. Uh, it's A-ball, it's Modesto, hitters league. You kind of want to start seeing some of the stuff. I think that you made good mention of how hamate injuries sap power initially and that sort of thing. Uh, I'm not diving off of the whatever you want to call it, the train or whatever. I'm firmly on the train. I'm a passenger on this train. He was the most talented guy that I. He was the most talented guy from what I understand in the Arizona Complex League last year with his dreaming on those tools. I know that there were some guys that might have had better performances, that sort of thing. Um, but like the whole package, he obviously wasn't lifting the ball last year. That was something that hasn't come yet. It might take a long while to come, to be honest with you. Um, but it's the total collection of that tool set. He has carry tools, and that's a key thing when you're looking at a middle infielder, especially in this organization that has done a really good job of identifying, and developing middle infielders. Will
Yeah.
he be a Mariner? That's the key question because they have such a logjam of middle infielders. But they're going to let him develop, and eventually they're going to have to go out. They're not developing other places. It's pitching and the middle infield. So the maybe they supplement their team by getting some bats by using guys like this. At one time it was the pitching. I mean, they used several prospects to get Luis Castillo to get that ace guy, and now pitching doesn't seem to be an issue in Seattle. Uh, it just comes down to development time, giving this kid enough time to develop.
Real quick, Fellman or Colt Emerson?
Emerson.
Okay. I'm Feldman, just because I feel like he has more time. Like Cole, we haven't seen the power yet from Emerson. I'm like, okay, Feldman's a little younger. Maybe we'll get it from him still. 40, shortstop, third baseman, Caleb Bonham with the White Sox. This guy is just really taken off this year. I kind of liked him coming in last year after the draft. Obviously, like, we didn't really have anything to go off of, but now we've got stats straight to A-ball for Bonham, and he's been taking off there. Showed power, shown very good plate skills, shown a pretty solid hit tool, speed too. I mean, like, he's stealing bags. So I'm really high on Bonham, really good bat speed. And like, I just think that across the board, like, for a shortstop at his age, he's showing everything you want to see. What do you think about Bonham?
I actually got a chance to scout him my first time out this year. I was in Lynchburg and got to see Kannapolis come through. I really was kind of surprised at how mature his swing, his approach is at this point. He has a opposite field gap kind of approach. Like that's where he is. His swing is basically geared towards. I was actually fairly. I might have been too soft when I saw him earlier this year. I only kind of ranked him as maybe a future solid average regular type deal. But I was just surprised that the White Sox had identified a guy that already had a above average to plus hit tool. I didn't know if power was going to come from the swing that I saw early this season. I I thought a lot of things were going to have to take place to do that. I watched a bunch of video. Mind you, I did this over the first 2 weeks of the season. I saw a lot of inside out swings on pitches, middle in, that sort of thing. It seems like he's driving the ball better now. Maybe my ranking needs to be a little higher. Right now, I have him in a bucket of in that 75 to 125 bucket. Um, and I'll be honest, I'll probably be next week really bearing down on him specifically and some other players at that level. I haven't looked at really any Carolina League guys since the first week of the season, unless they were with the Carolina Mudcats. Because I mean, of course, I want to see the best prospects in the league, and they're fun to watch. So it'll be interesting to see where I come out, but that's where I was when I was doing these buckets about a week or two ago.
Yeah, I just wish he was in Florida State League so that we would have EV data on him. But 20 extra base hits so far, and that'll play. He's hitting the ball in the air. He's hitting line drives. There's not like a ground, only 38% ground ball rate, and he's pulling 56% pull rate, Chris. So that's I think where some of this power is coming from. Is just there's a lot
Okay.
of power in the swing right now, and a lot of the times when guys are pulling that much, they might strike like have strikeout issues, but he doesn't. So only 8% swing strike rate, 22% K rate with that kind of pull rate and success with that. Like I think you can live with that. So I'm pretty high on him, and I think that what he's doing is he is one of the more advanced young guys at A-ball. Like I trust the data that we're seeing on him that we get from Carolina League. Like I said, like I wish we had EVs, but we don't. So you got to go off of what you only video and off of the data that you have. So 39 starting pitcher Hagen Smith, another White Sox. I've actually lowered him a little bit in my rankings here from last year, just because the command has been not great this year. I think you said you mentioned to me last time we talked that you saw him too. So I kind of want to get your feel on it, seeing him in person. If like it makes sense if he does seem as wild as like statistically it looks, because like you see like 5 walk games, four walks, 6 walks. So there's like a bunch of walks mixed in here, pretty high ball rates for Hagen Smith. Like stuff looks great. It's just like tons of strikeouts and walks. Is this like a Blake Snell profile that we're going to see from him here? Or do you think that maybe this is something that he can fix as far as the command?
I had I had a lot of reservations, and I've spoken about this on my last 2 episodes of the podcast. A lot of reservations going into the draft last year. Again, I wasn't speaking publicly and stuff, but I there was a discussion out there that essentially among starting pitchers, 1A was Chase Burns on some people's list, and 1B was Hagen Smith. And then 3 was Trey Savage. And we're talking about college arms, okay? Um, and I just never bought into Hagen Smith finding control all of a sudden. Because really nothing mechanically had changed from season to season. And that's where I still see this now. So I mentioned that there was somebody who was basically kept behind lock and key during spring training, and that no scouts were really able to scout him. And you only got an inning of him in the prospect showcase, and that was it. Like he wasn't in any games. Like he was literally locked away. That's not a good sign. That's either injury where a guy is missing the strike zone by wide margins and you don't want people to know. Well, you debut him in Double A, and that's what he's doing. I got an appearance where he pitched 2/3 of an inning, looked stellar for those first three batters. I mean, I think he walked one of them, but got two strikeouts, dominated. Then was missing so badly, and then had to aim his pitches. When he aimed his pitches, he got hit, and then he was gone 2/3 of an inning,
Yeah.
which sucked. Absolutely sucked. Um, I already mentioned Luis Castillo. I had one of those appearances with him, but like I could see like Luis Castillo just didn't like the cold weather, which was a theme early in his career too, in his major league career. He just didn't know how to. Hagen Smith didn't know where the baseball was going out of his hand. Um, and so you elicit Blake Snell. I'm going to elicit somebody that my last two guests have elicited, Asa Lacy.
Oh no.
And
Oh,
I'm going to say that. I didn't say that they said that, but I'm confirming that.
yeah.
And I had an evaluator that one of my mentors come to me last year and say, I just I can't believe in this arm. I cannot believe in this arm. This stuff is phenomenal. I mean, I saw the fastball, I saw the slider combo, but I saw it for two of the seven hitters that he faced.
Yeah.
And if you go and you scout him through other games, you're seeing the same thing. Right now, Hagen Smith is at the end of my is in the 75 100 bucket. That's what I have written here, and it's all because of we don't know we don't know if he's going to find it. Like he doesn't have the yips. People are going to say he has the yips. He just doesn't know where it's going. It's not that he's, has some sort of mental block on the strike zone and throwing it, to the backstop all the time and all of that kind of stuff. No, he just doesn't know where it's coming. And I have no confidence in the White Sox in figuring this out.
Yeah, that's how I felt watching George Klassen live last year. I was like, it's not this crazy. It's just like it's just going all over the place. So
And he had a chance with the Phillies to discover that. Now he's with the Angels. That sucks.
yeah, exactly. He was playing good before he got hurt this year. 38 starting pitcher Quinn Matthews. We actually talked about him quite a bit on your
We
podcast when I
did.
was on. And the thing is, he was hurt whenever we talked last, but he is back, and he did not have the velocity originally when he was in Aceball, but his last start out, he actually was back up to 96, reportedly on the fastball. He hit 96. So I think that in the IVB was back up too. So we may have Quinn Matthews back because he looked pretty good last time out. I'll pull him up on the stat page here so you can check it out. But his last start was on June 6th, 6 strikeouts, 0 walks. And that's when we had that fastball velocity back up. And that's also when the IVB was back up. I think it was at like 17 something when before he was in the 16. So it was up a whole inch. Obviously, you add velocity, you're probably going to be adding some ride to the fastball. But I think that's what we need from Quinn Matthews. Like he was down to throwing like 83, 84 mile per hour sliders when I saw him last year. He was throwing 86 mile per hour sliders. And he was throwing fastballs at 90, 96, 97 last year when I saw him. And this year he was throwing 93, 94. So you lose a couple ticks. That's going to do a lot negatively against you, especially in that range. We already discussed there's like magic range of like, okay, you need to be throwing mid 90s fastballs and you want like 85 mile per hour plus sliders. And if he's going to be, back in that range, then I think we may have 2024 Quinn Matthews back. So I'm pretty excited to watch the next start here to see if he can continue what he was doing the last start before I really say, oh yeah, 100% he's back. But like, I'm feeling pretty confident at this point because this is the first time we've seen this kind of velocity from him since maybe like Double A last year.
I watched that start the other day on one of my 3 screens that I have here. I mean, it was Quinn Matthews last year. I think you have him ranked appropriately given the fact that he was hurt earlier this year, and we've only had really one sample that it's back at this point. But I would expect it to be back, I think it's a good lesson for folks out there too. When you came on the show, you spoke and you didn't disqualify him. You said, "Hey, there's an injury issue here. Hopefully, it's not a long-term major injury issue." I still love him, and see, that's the thing. There's ebbs and flows in development. And rostering a player takes a commitment to get through those ebbs and flows. And I thought that was very helpful to my listeners with you, basically having that point of view. And I'm going to help your listeners out right now and say, hey, this is the dude. Like we just need to see him have a few more better starts, and yeah, we'll have him ranked a little bit higher than where he is now. But like he is in that next group of like really good start. I mean, we have a fantastic I hate ranking pitchers so high in fantasy. I really do. But right now we have so many good guys that like we have like three or four guys that are in a top tier. And then in a second tier, we have like five, six guys. And then the third tier, we have a bunch different other guys and stuff. Where usually we only have one or two in this tier, one or two in this tier, and then all of them are in this third tier that's like, we rank somewhere between 50 and 150. I don't know how you want to put it, kind of thing. Matthews could be like my favorite starter of that second tier, of pitchers. Well, we haven't talked about Thomas White yet, who I think is kind of like on the borderline of both of those tiers. So, like when we talk about Thomas White, maybe my answer changes, but I really like Quinn Matthews.
Yeah, me too, especially as
The
a Cardinals fan.
pitchability is just phenomenal for somebody who has the stuff he has.
Yeah, there's no exactly. Great pitchability. He knows how to pitch already. He's not just throwing the ball, and he already has built up workload before. So those are like those are bit major hurdles for guys building a
Yeah.
workload. Like he's already done that, which is pretty phenomenal. And the Cardinals are not going to trade. Like if they're actually going to be in it and they're going to go for it, like they're not trading anybody because Heim Bloom's taking over this year. So like if they're like, hey, we're in the playoff hunt, we need to make a boost, and we're not trading, just move Miles Michaelis to the bullpen and slot Quinn Matthews right in there, and you're making a pretty significant gain in the rotation, I think.
I like him better than Noah Schultz, and I know a lot of people probably have Noah Schultz ranked higher than Quinn Matthews. There's a better He's a better pitcher. Noah Schultz is like straddling that starter reliever bucket. Like
Yeah.
this is a starter that's probably an SP2 who could probably get up to an SP1 if it all works out. But at worst, he's an SP3, SP4. He's not somebody who's going to be sent to the bullpen because pitchability matters and the stuff that he has should play.
Yeah, for sure. 37 is shortstop outfielder Jet Williams. He actually is playing both this year, believe it or not. But Jet Williams, he's back. He was hurt last year, and he only played in 33 games and didn't look too hot. But I think we got full Jet Williams back, and he's still only 21 years old, Chris. Like people forget about him. I know he's a small dude. People don't like small dudes, but he has a really, really good plate approach. And for a small dude, he's got some juice in that bat, and he also has wheels. So like I think that he's going to be a pretty good fantasy player, just based on the fact that he's going to walk, which means he's going to get on base. He could steal 30 bags probably, and he probably has maybe 10 to 15 homer, upside, and maybe he even steals 40 bags. But I really like him for points leagues because he has such a good plate approach, and he is a smaller dude, so he, that's going to help him walk even more. So now that Jet Williams is actually healthy and he's back to like an 80% contact rate on the season, I'm back on the Jet Williams bandwagon here. How are you feeling on Jet Williams this year?
Man, he is just one tough evaluation. First off, like he's like Mighty Mouse. Like he is so freaking
Yeah.
strong for being so small. So like I almost like take out the whole hey he's small type guy and stuff. Maybe he wears down because of that. Who knows? He's like this spark plug like looking guy. He doesn't really look like truly athletic. He just looks like a spark plug. And he's so like his foot speed. I've had him home first above average, but like I feel like there's other gears there, so I consider kind of a plus runner from the right hand side. I worry about his zone contact rate sometimes. I think that he sells out for power way too much for a guy that's 5'5". 5'4", 5'5". I know he's probably listed 5'7", 5'8", but like he is shorter than Ozzy Albies. He's got to be shorter than Ozzy Albies. Albies is 5'5" and a half. I had a 5'5" and a half guy stand next to him in Asheville several years ago to find out his real height, and he's 5'5" and a half. And Jet Williams is shorter than that. Jose Altuve is actually the height that he's listed. Just so y'all know. But like um, that's my issue right there. Is he going to have enough contact in the zone to be really a difference maker? What I've really liked, what I've seen, and I watched him. I think I was watching the same night that I was watching Matthews. Is there's this period of time where you go from a passive hitter to a selective hitter, where you're bringing a aggressiveness into your at bats now. And prior to this season, I've just considered him a passive guy, a guy that I didn't really know if I should believe in his on base percentage. Now I'm seeing a more selective hitter, a guy that is tacking pitches earlier in counts now that he wasn't doing the previous few seasons. Last year, I think it was because he was hurt. Like I don't think he could swing. I don't think any of that stuff. But it's also making the evaluation a lot easier where we got a guy who I believe is in your top 25, Emmanuel Rodriguez, who I still believe is a passive hitter. I don't think he's selective one
Mhm.
bit. I think he's afraid to swing because he's going to swing through a pitch. Where here's Jet, I think he's putting it on the line now. And I think we're starting to understand that, yeah, there might be some in zone contact issues more so than what we thought in the first place, maybe what I might have imagined. I think you have him ranked right around where he needs to be ranked. I think on a real world scouting thing, where we're not talking fantasy and we're incorporating defense, versatility, that sort of thing. Like I feel like if he was committed, if they committed to him in center field full time, I feel like he ends up as a plus defender out there. I really do. I feel like he has good first step instincts. I feel like a real world prospect. He's better than I would rank him in a fantasy environment.
Mhm. Hey, he's got the mindset too, right? He's like
Yes.
he's got the dog in him, as they say. So, thir 36 is, second baseman, shortstop Kevin McGonigal with the Tigers. Started the season hurt, phenomenal hit tool. Just the thing for me is, like, I wonder how much power he's gonna get into. I know, like, in the offseason, he was working at that, and he was, like, posting, really high EVs in the lab and stuff like that, but, like, that hasn't really translated to game power yet, and so, like, I'm in this spot where I'm like, "Okay, is he gonna be more toward, like, a Cole Young, Jacob Wilson type guy with maybe a little more speed and athleticism, or is he actually gonna develop, some power in the game?" Like, you can't argue, though, with the hit tool, right? Like,
Hmm.
91% zone contact is ridiculous.
Hmm.
Uh, so like, I like him a lot. I know a lot of people have him in the top 20, top 25, whatever. I just, like, kinda wanna see the power in game before I push him, all the way up there in my rankings. Because there are a lot of other prospects that I like that are already showing that power, and I just, like, it I wanted to push him up higher, but I'm like, there are guys that are showing what I wanna see, what I want McGonagall to do, so I feel like I just had to, like, push those guys above him. But that's where I'm at on Kevin McGonigal. Where are you at on him?
I mean, that's a fair analysis of him. I I probably believe a little more on the power. I think it is real. I think what we were seeing in the lab is real stuff. He's a guy that not until a few weeks ago we saw play. And also we've got to kind of consider that, yeah, he's coming back from injury that did involved his hand, right? Or wrist or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like those sort of things are going to take some time to kind of iron themselves out. Uh, the way he hits the ball, his approach and the way he hits the ball. most guys that have these high contact rates don't get to a fairly good average contact rate. And that's what we saw last year. Like most of these dudes don't they hit the ball a lot, you know. It's like everybody, they'll call back to David Eckstein, who made a lot of contact, a lot of soft contact. Like that's what we're used to. That's what usually makes it to the major leagues is the David Eckstein type with this sort of contact skill. Um, but like what I feel with this is while he is aggressive, he will chase a little. I think that he can get to hard contact even out of the zone. And when I say hard contact, I'm not talking about like high EVs on those pitches. I'm talking about not these little tappers to shortstop or second base.
Hmm.
I believe in a hit tool. I think it's man, I don't want to say it, but like nobody ever wants to go on a anything above a 70 grade hit tool. I don't even like hitting a 70 grade hit tool, but like I think it's a 70 grade hit tool. Like it's that dynamic. I wish that he took more pitches, but like it's working for him. I mean, you're also talking about a kid from the Northeast, cold weather environment. They take a little bit longer, especially to get some of those dynamic things like into power and that sort of thing. They just take a little longer because they weren't playing always all year long. And you gotta love a Philadelphia kid. I mean, I don't know why. From Media, Pennsylvania, went to Monsignor Bonner and Archbishop Prendergrass High School, and I have relatives that have graduated from that high school, so I'm rooting especially for him.
So where do you have him? Like top 20, top
Top 20.
15? Top
He's
20.
he's probably uh, just looking at my ranking, probably going to be 18th.
Who do you have higher? Kevin McGonigal or JJ Weatherholt?
Oh man, that's a good one. I have JJ Weatherholt at 17.
Oh, one apart. See, yeah, their hit tools are both so good. I didn't
Yes,
Weatherhold is just showing more power right now. He's also a couple years older, so I mean, like,
he
yeah.
is. He is. He
Um,
is.
35 outfielder Eduardo Quintero with the Dodgers, who's just been like an absolute stud so far this year at A ball. Uh, Obviously, Dodgers prospect. So you wonder, like, okay, is he gonna stay a Dodgers prospect? Like, or is he gonna get traded? Whatever. But really good plate school skills so far. 17% walk rate almost with a 23% K rate, and then power and speed combined. I mean, like with these stats that he's putting up, he shouldn't even be an A ball anymore. Like, what are you doing when the guy is hitting 324 with 11 bombs and 32 steals in 51 games?
Hmm.
That's ridiculous. These are video game numbers that Eduardo Quintero is putting up right now in A ball for the Dodgers. And he needs to be tested at a different level at this point because it's just like unless you just want him to be like, hey, let's see if we can get this guy to 36. Let's see if he can put up a Ronald Acuna season at A ball this year. Like, what else is the point right now to keep him in A ball? But like, I think he's awesome. He also has a really low chase rate, 19.4% chase rate. So like
Hmm.
everything here is really good. Like these are all fantastic tools for Quintero, and I think he's kind of underrated right now as a prospect. What are your thoughts on Quintero? What do you see in him?
So the last 2 days, or last 3 days, I recorded with Reese White. I just released the podcast. Director of Prospect Analysis. He's in the Cal League. He watches games at Inland Empire, and he had a glowing report in Quintero, to the point that like it kind of changed my point of view of him. So talking about why he's still there, there's a huge logjam with outfielders in that organization. I, they're trying to see what they
Oh,
have out of former first rounder Kendall George, who is manning center field. Quintero's a center fielder. Like he's clearly going to be a center fielder. I think you've hit on a lot of things. He's that guy we were talking earlier about the guy with the average to above average hit tool. Now we're talking about our tool set. We're talking about a guy with above average to plus tool. So now we've got this carry that's coming, and he has the defensive carry for center field, so he's going to get the at bats. He has the speed. Obviously, has some instincts, at least in the A ball level. Um, I feel like there's power to come to this profile too. So you've got a hit tool that's probably a 55-60 with potential 60 power, with a guy that's stealing probably. I hate using 65s, but like I haven't gotten anybody to tell me he's plus plus runner, but everybody says that he's like faster than plus, so he must be like a 65 if that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't like to hedge. I don't use fives. I don't use point fives. I don't use. I like to either say 60 or 40 or 20 or 50
Round
instead of
numbers here.
55.
Round
Yep,
numbers.
round numbers. A lot for folks. That's more of a media thing that are using 55s and 65s and 45s. A lot of organizations, most organizations that I have contacts in, are either using a 2 to 8 scale, so instead of the 2 to 20 or 20 to 80, to avoid doing the fives. And then a lot of them that do 20 to 20, 80 is they're just using the whole numbers. Because if you're going to give a 60 to a guy, you better believe in that 60. They don't want you to hedge, okay? And so, like, I had a friend that like thought he was wrong when he hedged on Julio Rodriguez. He was like, I went with the lower grade because I just didn't really believe in that hit tool. And, well, there you go. He might have gotten that one right.
Yeah.
To go down on the lower thing when everybody else was going higher. Um, but yeah, dynamic player. I think that 35 is a good ranking for him. I have him in my 30 bucket. But I'll tell you, by the time I publish, he could move up. Like it's just what it is.
Yeah. He's been ridiculous. 34 is starting pitcher Jacob Mizurowski. He is debuting tomorrow, so that's going to be fun to see. You already kind of prefaced him a little bit. The big question with him is obviously the command, but he's improved it a lot this last year. So it's like, okay, and he did it at AAA, but can he now can he do that in the majors? The thing is, I think he can, because I feel like at this point, AAA is harder for pitchers. Like, you see walk rates improve when guys go from AAA to the majors right now. It's kind of weird. It's just
Mhm.
because of the ABS and the way that the hitters are taking their approach right now at AAA. So you actually see walk rates improve with guys who are moving from triple to the majors. So I think he'll be fine. He's throwing a bunch of hundreds right now. Like, I think, how many times did he throw 100 last time out? Like 14 or 15 or something.
Something
So
like that.
yeah, so he's got some mad heat, and probably, because it's his debut, he'll probably have a little more in there. So you're gonna see, like, maybe he won't go very long, because his last couple starts out, he's only throwing 65, 68 pitches. So maybe they only let him go 3 or 4 innings or something like that. 5 probably at the most. I don't know what his pitch count's going to be, but he's really leaning on that fastball, throwing it almost 66% of the time in the minors this year. So pretty crazy. But when it's that effective, why not?
Mhm.
What do you think about Mizurowski? Like, obviously, like, huge fastball, slider, and curveball are pretty solid. But do you think he's going to have to lean more on the breakers in the majors?
This is boring, but like I have really nothing else to add, dude. Like, uh, I think I think he ends up having to rely a little bit more on the breakers in the major league because they'll be amped up for that velocity. They're not amped up for that velocity in AAA. Like, there's such a the difference between AAA hitters and AAA and major league hitters is wider than it's been in my 15, what is it? Yeah, 15, 16 years of covering the minor leagues. Like, it's literally wider than it's ever been. Um, and I think a lot of that's because of the experimental strike zone in that league. And I think that's why we're not seeing so many guys thrive when bats come up. And we see pitchers more, improve and that sort of thing. But I love that I mean, your ranking explanation that you posted on Twitter is how I feel. Not that way. It wasn't your ranking, or was it the prime? It was the ranking. It was the might be an elite reliever.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where he is. So I don't have him as highly ranked as you, even though our words are probably going to be the same, very similar. Our words will be similar. I just don't have him ranked high enough because I don't have him in the SP bucket. Elite reliever is great. Don't get me wrong, but if you're drafting a redraft team the right way, that elite reliever is being drafted 80, 70, 90. It might be a top 100 guy, but most of them are outside of the top 100. And then from year to year, it's so volatile. So it's just hard for me to rank a guy in that bucket in my top 50. However, I will say in that bucket, he's my top pitcher.
Yeah, you know what? In that odd new league that we're in, it's so hard to come by saves. I don't. I'd like actually prefer his value as a reliever if he
Yes,
becomes
I
a closer
agree.
for the Brewers, because that league it's so hard to come by saves. So, 33 outfielder Zaire Hope with the Dodgers. Obviously, just like a data darling at this point. Uh, I don't know why. Like we just talked about Quintero, why he's in A ball. Why is he in A ball? And it's like that high A Dodgers outfield is ridiculous with Hope, Sirota, George. But it's like I feel like Hope could easily move to Double A at this point. And I mean you've got DePaula there too. So it's like I think George is actually their fourth outfielder right now. So it's like DePaula and Hope could probably move to Double A, and then you could move Quintero up. Like a lot of these Dodgers guys, the Dodgers are just so loaded right now. But a lot of these guys I feel like could move up. Obviously, like we don't have EV numbers where he's at right now in high A. It would be pretty sweet if we do, if we did.
Mhm.
Like, but all accounts are that he's hitting the ball incredibly hard, posting 111 plus maybe EVs. So you got power, and you already mentioned the hit tool. I'll let you talk a little more about him, but I'm pretty high on him. But I like to me, and you look at a guy like Quintero and Hope, both in the same org, and Quintero maybe has the higher ceiling because he's got more speed in there, but Hope probably has, like he has the better hit tool and he's a level higher. So it's like I just give him the slight edge for primarily that reason.
You mentioned something in your report that you posted about his sweet swing. For folks, that sweet swing kind of had some scouts a little bit questioning whether like that hit tool was going to stay, because it's a very steep swing. We're going to talk about some guys that including the next guy on your list that have steep swing planes, we'll get more into that in a second. This guy continues to make incredible strides across basically every category. Better zone contact rate this year, more power, and still also posting those top flight EV numbers. I did get some data from this league. Uh, yes, good player. Uh, the problem with a steep swing is people expect there to be, like, you're not necessarily supposed to add on zone contact rate. And it's gotten steeper this year. Like it somehow has gotten steeper, the trajectory, and he's still making those improvements. Okay. Um, I think he unfairly got dinged for it last year. I think he's still getting dinged for it this year in the public sense. I'll be honest, he's in my top 10 right now.
Ooh,
Like
nice.
he was in my top 10 last year. I haven't moved him. Like he's at the same place. He's at number 10. But he's in my top 10. But they saw contact concerns. I don't believe it's there. His hands are so quick. The way he whips that bat through is what was impressive, and that's what impressed me when I saw him at the Arizona Fall League last year. Uh, I I believe in this bat so much that I think it's a true hit power that could be potentially plus hit and plus power. And those are special guys in fantasy. He is not a center fielder. He was in center fielder when I saw him. He's gotten more muscular this year. He's bigger, but he does have the arm for right field. He has the power carry for right field. Like this guy's a beast, and so like I'm okay with being the high guy again. Comes from a very fertile area of the United States, of North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, that has produced so many prospects that have come from out of nowhere recently, like the Jackson Merrills. I know he was a first round pick, but he came out of nowhere. James Triantos was a guy that wasn't even like considered a second round pick until like a few weeks before the draft. That's how out of nowhere he came. Like it's just incredible thorough. And he was in Hope was in North Carolina, which is probably the best part of that whole area with so many colleges, so many great high schools in that area, so much great talent. It's kind of. I'll be honest. North Carolina's probably taken over from Georgia as being the most outside of Florida, Texas, California, being the most fertile um, development place for amateur players.
It's because all the Florida people moved to North Carolina when they retire. So you got all these Florida ball players that move up there. So you
Yeah, and Georgia's getting all the people from cold weather climates because we're good to do business in and that sort of thing. So, I
yeah.
mean, you being in Florida, you know how it works.
Yep. But yeah, I think rule of thumb: if you're a team and the Dodgers call you about a prospect, don't trade that guy. 30,
Yeah.
32 is catcher Eduardo Tait. I saw him this year. Really good plate approach. Like I love this dude. 18 years old right now and Aceball. Like I feel like this is just the next Samuel Basayo almost coming along here. I think his swing reminds me more, and like his body type, he just reminds me of a Contreras, but like he's a lefty version of the Contrerases
Hmm.
when he's swinging. Very good hit rate, or almost 83% zone contact rate right now. And as a 18-year-old has posted a 113.8 max EV. Really good 90th percentile EVs as well for Tait. And he also is good defensively on top of it. I caught him. I've only seen him one game, but he was behind the plate the whole time, and he caught a pretty good game. So I think defensively he's pretty good. I think he threw someone out too during the game. So I think he could stick at catcher too. Like this isn't a guy that like Briseño who's probably going to move off. Like I think he's going to stick at catcher. What do you think about Tait?
Well, I'm not as high on him as you are. I think it's potential, but again, this is where we get into the whole thing where it's better to be positive sometimes on a player than negative. My track record of ranking catchers from A ball in any sort of thing is not good at all. Okay. So what I mean by that is instantly it's very hard for a catcher to get into the top 50 for me. Like it's just impossible, really. I acknowledge this guy has special power. It's plus to maybe exceptional. The exit velocities that he's been producing, the sort of power that he's producing in a offensively depressed environment, which is the Florida State League, is so impressive. Um, I've talked to scouts that aren't so sold on his approach, aren't so sold on his swing mechanics. I've only watched him. I think I've only watched Clearwater 3 or 4 times. I really am a big Arun Escobar fan, so I come for the Arun Escobar at bats, and I stay for the Tait at bats. That's just me. Um, but like again, I think that and you posted really good video of this actually when you saw him. You had a side profile of a bad swing, which I admire you for putting side profiles of bad swings. I wish more people would do that because the power swings that we see, the highlights that everybody posts aren't the true guy. Like that's
Yeah,
not the true guy.
exactly. Yeah.
But you see where the issue was in that swing. You see his load's not the greatest. He does not load his hands that great. They start out low, they kind of stay low, and it's hard for him. He's going to be a guy it's going to be hard for him to get to pitches that are not below the belt. Like it's just going to without further mechanical adjustments. But again, the power is phenomenal, and there's enough of the hit tool there because most of the time when we see a guy like that, and I don't know why I just thought of Ivan Wilson. There was so many things wrong with Ivan Wilson. It's a Mets prospect who was really bad, but had this sort of power where it was like 80 grade power, and like you were like, oh wow, but he couldn't hit. Like he literally couldn't hit. This kid can actually hit. This kid does have a bit of an aggressive approach. He will chase. He will expand the zone and stuff, which a lot of catchers at this level have, and that's why it's so hard to evaluate a catcher as a hit tool of the catcher. Is again what I said with Drake Baldwin. They have so many things that they're worried about right now. And that's true with Tait. That's true with a guy that doesn't have the same stick like Salas with the Padres, you know. And a lot of us had him ranked in the top 50, and now he's outside of our top 50 for reasons, you know, like real world prospect. Salas is probably a top 50 prospect because of what he brings on the defensive side of things. But like the other problem is that I've seen too is um, I think some of his catching mechanics are like I feel like from watching him and watching, and of course, I'm watching from behind the pitcher. I see that he does a really good job of framing pitches and that sort of thing. I think he has good movements, but I don't like his footwork at all. And that's a concern too. And I've heard scouts also echo that same sentiment. So like this is but they said the same thing about Baseo, and they've said the same thing about so many other catchers. Cal Riley is considered one of the best defensive catchers in the league. And if you look back at his scouting reports from when he got drafted, he was a hit first catcher who may never catch because he was so bad defensively. Ryan Jeffers, too, with the Twins, same thing. It's so hard to evaluate a catcher at this stage. But like there are traits that I've already seen that I like. And footwork, it's hard to like I can't imagine it being easy to fix that sort of thing. So that's why my ranking is more like I think he'll probably be around 75 or 80 as opposed to where you have him. But again, you're not wrong either because you're seeing the same things that I'm seeing. Uh, I mean, at Powers, I mean, other than maybe Emmanuel Rodriguez and Roman Anthony, we're not going to talk about a guy that's hitting the ball harder. Like it's Zaire Hope. Like those three players with this dude, like this guy just happens to be a catcher, and that's just a profile that's so hard to verify.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like one of the reasons I'm willing to push him so much is that he's doing this at his age. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, those EVs from an 18-year-old are just insane, and it's only going to get better. Like he should only be getting stronger, unless he like just starts going to McDonald's every day or something. It's like he should only be getting stronger and getting better. So I think there's a lot to be excited about, and like it's definitely a guy I push. Like in my mind when I'm ranking him. I'm like, this is a flag guy for me, right? Like I'm planting my flag by ranking him this high. Like that's something that
Yep.
I'm
You
doing,
are.
So just like how you are with Hope, you're ranking him top 10, like
Yep.
that's your guy, right? So that's
Right.
kind of what I'm doing with Tait here. 31, Arjun Namala, shortstop with the Blue Jays, has really bounced back. I mean, like last year at the beginning of the year, Welsh and I were talking so much crap on him. We're like, oh, everyone was so excited about Namala, and he's already getting sent down to complex to work on things, blah blah blah. But whatever they did, whatever he changed when he was there, he was fire when he came back, and has just kept going even though he's at high A now. Like he's only beginning better and better. The power has gotten better and better. More doubles, like just everything you want to see, really. Really, like the stats that we're seeing, like what he's putting up, the extra base hits, the home runs, like he's doing stuff that like you wanted Carlos Correa to do when when he was coming up, right? Like that's like
Right.
you look at that, you're like, oh, that's like Troy Tulowitzki type power that he's putting up right now, and he's a 19-year-old with a big frame. So I just love everything he's doing right now, and like I'm totally willing to eat crow on what I was saying last year. Like whatever adjustments he made worked, and he is a completely different player now. And so like he has earned being this high in rankings. You know what I mean? Like he's earned being a top 50 prospect 100%.
I firmly agree. I scouted him early in the year. Some bad feed in the Northwest League. He eased his aggressiveness considerably. I mean, that's a lot of this too. He's made, of course, the appropriate swing adjustments. and the combination of those two things have reduced his strikeout rate significantly. Uh, Also, I've been impressed with his strength gains too. He's a much stronger kid now. I'm sure you saw him last year, or you at least watched video of him. Like, I feel like he went through a body transformation over the off season,
Yeah.
where he went from becoming a boy to a man, and like I think that's the whole hard thing. We're so used to guys, our top guys, not struggling at these lower levels that we forget, like, Arjun Amala was a boy when he got drafted.
Yeah.
I mean,
He was a high schooler.
he was
At
young. He was, I
17.
mean, his debut season was his 17-year-old season. He was, October 16th birthday, which is my niece's birthday. My niece is a few years older than him. Like, oh, man, that's crazy. She's 21. He's literally 19 years old. I mean, to think of that, like, and people got down on him, and like that sucked because we're so production driven sometimes. But like
Yeah.
his front side stays firm. It wasn't staying firm last year. That was one of the big adjustments he's made. He's allowing that lower half to transfer the energy from the back leg through his swing. He's creating leverage by having that front leg firm and that sort of thing. Uh, like the improvement from one year over another, even beyond the improvement that he made in season last year when he got sent back, has been phenomenal. I really like him, and he's ranked in my top 20.
Yeah.
Well,
We're gonna
actually, no,
prob
he is just outside the top 20. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't blame you. He's been awesome. We're gonna have to probably cut it at 30 here, even though I was trying to get to 26 or 25 because I gotta get my daughter to bed. So we'll end it on this note because
Okay.
I know you wanted to talk about him. As number 30, starting pitcher Thomas White for the Marlins. He's been very productive of late. He actually made my T10 last time out because he had 8 Ks and 4 innings. But you and I talked about him on your podcast where I saw a velo uptick from him this year. It's like the same thing I saw from Snelling, but White is
Mhm.
just he's just a better pitcher than Snelling. So like, that's the difference. And he changed the slider. So last year when I saw White, he had like a slurvy slider, like a lot of curve to it. Like it was like kind of loopy, and it was like a 78. There's like a high 70s, low 80s slider. Now he's throwing an 83 to 85 mile per hour hard slider, gyro slider, whatever you want to call it. But it's much more productive. It's got like a 15.4 swing strike rate, I think, on that pitch. So it's much more productive than it was last year.
Yeah. I
Pretty
saw
hard.
him last year at the Futures game and was like, "Oh my god, this guy's so raw." It's kind of like what I saw. I actually mentioned you in this week's last week's scouting report that I did. Dason Hill, right? That's how you pronounce that
Yes.
dude's name.
Yeah, Dason, actually. It's like
Dason, sorry, Dason.
it's pronounced like the whitest imaginable way, imaginable way you could possibly pronounce his name
Yes,
in your mind.
but like I watched him, off of your recommendation. I decided to watch him and scout him and see how absolutely raw he is, and like all of this potential, this enormous potential, and he's getting outs at this level because like even if he's not meaning to, he's commanding the ball well enough to do it. Like I don't even know. Like last year with Thomas White, I didn't even know if like he knew how to pitch. Like it was so pure stuff. So you're starting to see that maturation with him this year. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen, I think I saw one or two videos of this, is really and truly the biggest thing is keeping his shoulder closed. I think that's where the improved strike rate has come this year, or the improved command. I don't think the strike rate's going to be that much higher. I think that's the next thing to come. The control is still not there. I think we talk a lot about command and control. They are two different things. Command is, uh, you know, pitching to spots. And this guy's probably never going to have great command, but he has to have better control. Um, Tyler Glass now, God rest him, he's never going to be healthy enough to ever live out this dream that I've had of his. That I thought, like SP1, awesome guy, but like Tyler Glasnow just needed control all those years. He needed better control because, like, he never needed command. He has below average command right now as we speak and dominates when he's healthy. Like, you don't need that when you have the stuff that these guys have. I really feel like White's taken a huge step this year. I feel like he's on that cusp between SP, my first bucket, and my second bucket, and I don't know where he fits. And so I'm interested in a month when I do my ranking, whether he's going to be higher or lower.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I just like quickly just comment on one other player?
yeah, for sure. Hit it.
Okay, Luis Pena. Like I'm assuming you have Clegg on next week.
Yeah, actually, tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you have Clegg on. You have Clegg on. I just want to beat him to the punch on this because, like, I'm sure he's seen him. I haven't been on socials as much. I need to really reach out soon because I need him to be on my podcast. But like, I was around when Ronald Acuna was in A ball. Okay. I wrote something really bold in minor league baseball analysts like this guy could be the next top prospect in baseball. I've never written anything about that guy like that again. Everybody was talking about Jesus Mate for reasons. Like he is really freaking good and a better prospect than Luis Pena. But the uh power that he has gained this year at such a small age is kind of like what Ronald Acuna did between low A and high A. And like they're huge gains. You have him ranked kind of where I have him, and again in a month I probably have him a lot higher. Um, I just love everything about this kid. Again, a foundational hit tool has been in place probably since this kid grabbed a bat when he was 5 years old. Like literally, this is this is extra talent. And to say that he's not even their top dude says a lot about the Brewers international scouting right now because their top dude's pretty damn good.
Yeah, they're on fire. I had a kind of between Luis Pena and Franklin Arias. I was like, okay, what am I going to do between these two guys? Their hit tools are both amazing. Arias is just a level higher, so I kind of give him a nudge there for being the level higher. Even though Pena has more speed, right? Like they both have like really great hit tools. They both have like non-zero power. Pena has more speed, but like I'm like, okay, Arias is doing it though at high A. So, like, because those two guys I kind of threw in like a similar bucket between Arias and Pena because both of them are like younger guys with really good hit tools, like
Yeah,
superior hit tools. But
yeah.
yeah,
And
Pena's
and and Arias is a for with my experience, and I wrote up Arias. I got to see him. I cover the same guys Clay covers basically, so that's why I wait till later in the season to have him on because he can get the guys I missed and all of that good stuff, and we can talk about all the guys that we both saw. But like with Pena, yeah, oh my god, you could tell it's late with Arias. I've seen that profile so many times come through and not amount to anything. But then I've never seen that profile as dynamic as Arias is. Like it's a dynamic profile for such an aggressive hitter.
yeah,
Most of those guys, like we were talking about the dude earlier, like most of those type of guys are weak hitters when they have that contact skill. And this guy is just not a weak hitter. McGonigal. Now, Arias is hitting the ball a lot harder than McGonigal, but like what I'm saying is these guys are also getting hard hit contact on pitches that nobody else is doing that on and making that sort of contact. Like just the hand eye and being able to do that is phenomenal. So I got two players in. Ha Clegg.
All right, so that's a podcast. Go give Chris Blessing a follow on X and definitely listen to the Eyes Have It podcast. and catch all his written stuff over on Baseball HQ. Thanks for jumping on, Chris. Always a pleasure to have you. And the rest of my prospect rankings you can find on Fantasy Pros if you want to find the written format, or just listen to the rest of the podcasts. So we'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.